On behalf of the Board of Education, welcome to our meeting this evening. This meeting is being recorded. It is being recorded. The recording will be available shortly through the school website using a link through Board Docs. Thank you, Erica. We would like you to know that if you have questions or concerns, that we strongly encourage you to utilize the Honeoye Central chain of contact. This will ensure that topics that are of importance to you are directed to appropriate people and can be looked into in a timely and efficient manner. Before we proceed, please set your phones and devices to silent or turn them off so that we can conduct board business without disruption. Jen, is there anyone signed up to speak during public expression? Okay, then we will forego public expression this evening and we will move on to kudos. Does anybody have any kudos that they would like to share this evening? Jerry?
Of course I do, but just one. I was at the elementary play last night, Pirates from Grammar Island. It was very well done. The third, fourth, and fifth grade students did a tremendous job. The auditorium had a nice crowd. It was just wonderful to see. So a big kudo to the students, to the teachers, to the parents and grandparents that were there too. It was wonderful.
Anybody else? Megan?
Sure. I was there along with Jerry last night and it was great to see. I went to the 7 p.m. And the auditorium was pretty much full, halfway, at least a little bit more, maybe 3/4 of the way. So it was great to see. Even the kids were so excited to see it again for a second time. They were up jumping around and trying to join in on some of the songs that they knew. So it was great to see. I also wanted to comment, a parent actually came up to me after our Bloomfield game and just wanted to give kudos to all of our kids, students, staff, and families of how respectful we are at our basketball games. They said that they've gone to other schools in the area and it's not always loud. Be loud, be proud. Be loud, be proud, be positive. So I just want to give a kudos to all of our students and staff because they were so respectful. They were cheering respectfully. So it was great for them to see because they don't always get that at every school that they go to. So it was very much appreciated from that parent. And that's all I had.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything else? Okay, then we will move on to the Board of Education committee reports and updates. The Facilities Subcommittee met on February 5th to go through the capital improvement project bids from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And then February 9th, we reconvened to talk about the bids. In a little bit, Bill Christensen will be here from TAMCO to go through everything that we need to know about. So I'm not really going to touch on too much other than to just let you know we had the meetings and I'll let him do the rest when he gets here. Does anybody have any other committee reports or updates? No? Okay, then I will hand the floor over to Superintendent Fluke for the superintendent report.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tori. Tonight, we have 3 presentations. First, we'll hear from Public Librarian Janelle Specca to talk about the library tax levy, followed by our construction manager, Bill Christensen, with updates regarding our capital improvement project. And lastly, members from our leadership team are here tonight to highlight fall to winter benchmark data. They will also be sharing some exciting accomplishments and next steps. But first, a few additional kudos. So congratulations to this month's Rotary honorees. Tonight we celebrate middle school student Gemma C. and high school student Eli S. for outstanding citizenship. They will be honored by the Honeoye Lake Rotary Association at the American Legion on February 19th. Also, a kudos to our elementary students who participated in yesterday and last night's production. Their performance showcased not only their talents, but also their confidence, teamwork, and enthusiasm. I want to thank co-directors Katie Meek and Melanie Braun, as well as set and costume volunteers Lindsay Olivari, Megan Schneider, Betsy Shaw, and Sarah Raskin. Again, thank you to everyone who participated in the production. Congratulations to our bowling varsity team who competed in a tournament last evening at Roseland Bowl. A special thank you to Coach Very for his leadership and dedication to the program. Last week, the picture at the bottom there, we celebrated the varsity girls basketball seniors. I had the opportunity to attend their game and celebrate the big win against Naples. So congratulations to the girls. And to echo what Megan said, I received an email from the previous game from the referee about just the outstanding citizenship of the girls during the game and our fans. So that's pretty amazing. This evening in the gym, high school, HCS will be honoring our one varsity boys basketball senior, as well as 6 seniors from our competitive cheer team. So again, we thank them and their coaches for their commitment to our programs. Our indoor track league championship will take place this Sunday at Nazareth College, rescheduled from last weekend. So we wish our student athletes the best of luck this Sunday. We will be sending a survey to students in grades 9 through 12 to gauge interest in a CPR certification, as brought up by one of our board members. We are exploring the possibility of offering CPR certification to students for the first time. It would likely look like a weekend or an after-school session. Depending on the level of interest, we will determine how to best structure the offering. So the survey will also gather feedback on preferred format. So either a fully in-person format, which would be approximately 4.5 hours, or a blended learning option similar to what our staff has participated in, where 2 of the hours or so are online and the 2.5 hours in person. So we will then meet with our finance committee to review cost considerations for the district if we choose to go that route. Okay. And lastly, we are preparing to celebrate Honeoye Central School District's 75th year anniversary. So more to come in the coming weeks about that. Okay, and now please welcome Honeoye Public Librarian Janelle Specca to the podium. And Janelle, you'll just have to hit the button on the right.
I believe that's the right one. Hi. Okay, let me get situated. I tried to bring everything that you could possibly ask for. So my name is Janelle Specca. There, spelled correctly there, not on the agenda though. I have been the director for the Honeoye Public Library for over 6 years now, and I was asked to come and discuss the library and our increased budget for the 2027 fiscal year. So we're not talking about the year we're in, we're talking about being on the ballot this year for our budget for the 2027 year. So thank you for sharing your concerns regarding the library tax levy proposition and for the community to address questions that have surfaced in the community, or the opportunity, I'm sorry. And for the opportunity to address the questions that have surfaced in the community. I appreciate the district's proactive approach and its continued partnership with the Honeoye Public Library. The current proposal represents a 10% increase to the library's tax levy, which equates to $18,000 on a $180,000 levy. In absolute terms, this is a modest increase. For context, the school district's 2025 to 2026 budget increased by 4.38%, totaling $864,158, while percentage comparison alone can appear stark, they do not tell the full story. The district's single-year increase is several times larger than the library's entire annual operating budget, and this comparison is not offered as a criticism, but as context for scale. It is also important to acknowledge that the library and the school district operate under very different financial realities. The district manages a far larger and more complex system. At the same time, the library operates with a lean budget and that leaves little room to absorb rising personnel, materials, and costs, or service costs without periodic adjustments. An $18,000 increase directly supports the library's ability to remain open, staffed, and responsive to community needs. The Honeyway Public Library serves students, families, educators, and residents of all ages for the entire district. It serves early literacy, homework help, workforce development, access to technology and lifelong learning, and a million other services. These services complement the district's educational mission and extend learning beyond the school day and school years. Maintaining this level of service requires stable and realistic funding. The goal of this request is not to place undue burden on the taxpayers, but to sustain a vital community institution at a level that reflects current costs and expectations. From the library's perspective, support from the school district or at a minimum of neutral stance sends an important signal of shared commitment to the community's educational and civic infrastructure. So as you can see on the very back page of the annual report, you can see 2023, 2024, 2025, as well as the budget for this year and the proposed budget for the following year. So there are three major things that are boosting all of those expenses, and one is staffing. When I started at the library, there were literally 2 people working there, and it was unsafe because majority of the time you were working there alone. So now we're properly staffed. We have 4 clerks, a program coordinator who functions also as a clerk, a bookkeeper, custodian, and myself as their director. And I try to keep my hours as small as possible because I'm the most expensive person on the payroll. And seeing that I'm paid hourly, I try to keep it as low as possible. Basically having this allows for no one to have to cover shifts by themselves. And up until this year, I have covered at least 1 day by myself fully. And so now we properly have all the staff that we need. So this year, we also had some major repairs that had to take place before construction aid money was awarded to us from the state. Thankfully, we had some reserves that we were able to pull from to cover the cost until the money comes in, because we still haven't received it. I applied for funding in 2023 for 2025, and I'm still waiting for that 2025 money to come in. It was supposed to be here in November. But we needed furnaces. We could not function and be open this season if we did not have new furnaces, because last year we functioned with 1. And so I can't even tell you what that would have done to our building to function without furnaces. And as well as our lights were falling from the ceiling, so I had to have all of those, which your husband helped me with, and I appreciate. But yeah, all the lights were falling from the ceiling just because the building was built in '68. But I really work hard to get all of that construction aid funding. I spend a good half of the year working on them periodically just to get as much funding as we can to secure the building, to make sure that it's there for many generations, not just us. And I want to say that we have so many groups from the community that don't have library cards that do use our building on a very regular basis, like the seniors, the Aero Modelers, the tons of troops of Boys Scouts and Girl Scouts and Brownies, library committees, HVA, HL, WTF, as well as Rotary is now using us for the book distribution to our homeschool school students. And we have a homeschooling group that uses us on a regular basis. We have snowmobile training. We have tutors in there all the time. And that's part of why we're trying to expand to the basement in the future, because we can't house everybody that we have in there. We also have tons of speech therapists that use us on a weekly basis and study groups. But anyways, I want to conclude by basically saying our library slogan is Honeywell Public Library, we're more than just books. And I want to ensure you that we're more than just the numbers that you see before you. We offer so much to the community that I can't even put it all into words. Like I would exhaust myself. This is what I've been dreaming about for the last like 3 weeks, because like there's so many things that I want to tell you that we do and that we offer and we provide, that it's more than I can put down. But did you have questions? Because I know, oh, and I did want to take a drink. The one really important thing, when we were pitching the original 259 tax levy, we were saying it's going to be an extra $20 added to your school tax bill in a different line. And basically, thanks to the town reassessing everything, it now has actually brought it down to 1774. So for every $100,000 your house is assessed at, instead of it being $20 that you'll pay towards that, it's now 1774. So that brought it down greatly. And that's for Richmond specifically. And I have the figures for Canadice, Bristol, South Bristol, West Bloomfield, and Livonia. And that's thanks to Derek. I appreciate that via Cynthia. But I just wanted to bring that to point that with this increase, we're still going to be asking less. Like it's still going to be technically less, even though we're getting more. Yes, questions?
I've got a quick one.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the numbers on the back,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want to see you end up short. So like in 2025, your expenditures were about 223,000, but 23,000 of that was construction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So really, your expenditures were about 200,000, correct?
Yeah,
So my worry is in 2026, you have a budget of 180,000.
right.
So that's 20,000 less than you spent the previous year.
No, I know. This is our problem. But right now, I'm getting all of those big, ginormous projects like all the giant things are like crashing through the ceiling because things were cleaned up, like the messes were cleaned up, but nothing was ever really fixed. And so I'm trying to utilize what funds we have to fix the building so that it doesn't collapse on us. So yes, and that 23,000 is what I'm waiting for from construction. And then the 18,000 is towards our 2026 construction. Because I have a donor that was willing to, like, he and his wife donated the end of the building, that whole section. And so that's the section that I'm focusing on next because it was built in 2013 and things are starting, unfortunately, it's falling apart faster than the old section. So I talked to him and he was willing to contribute to certain things. But the 2026 construction, I was able to qualify for $70,000 of funds and we're only responsible for 30, but that accounts for 25% of that 30. I think
Okay.
that's what it is. So we just have to come up with the 10. Because lately I've been able to qualify for 90-10, where they pay for 90 and we pay for the 10, which is phenomenal. And you can't say no to that, especially when it fixes your furnaces and AC and your lights. But for 2026, it also means new paving or additional paving, because if you've driven by us lately, there's no parking because we're so full all the time. Yes, Jerry. Do I need to get a pen?
Yes, okay. When you're a public entity, so when you put your budget on the line, like I found, Okay, for 2025, your revenues were 193,620. Your expenditures were 169, not this 222. These construction things, this is the first time that I've seen that. How come that's not on your public page?
On my public page,
The
or
page online where you post your budget every
Mhm.
year. I went online and looked, and I saw your 23 revenues, 24 revenues and expenditures, 25. These
well,
construction
I
pieces
haven't
aren't
even
there.
posted for 2025 yet. Are
It's
you talking about just the budget,
The
which
budget.
does not include revenues? It is a budget.
No, your budget, you post expenditures and revenues.
I know, but the thing is like that's proposed revenues because you never know if you're going to get a donation or if you're going to get state money from the state or like there's so many different things, like variables in that revenue section. Unfortunately, like I don't know how much I'm going to make from book sales. I don't know how much I'm going to make for my copier. I don't know how, because like all of those things are money coming in that I never know what it's going to be year to year. We put a number down because we need a number down based on the last couple of years.
Oh.
I can't tell you that for sure it's going to be,
The
this number is exactly what we got at the end of the year. And no, I don't have that posted yet because I don't do my bank statements monthly on the website.
Well,
Legally, I have to put my budget on there. If you would like monthly updates, we have a board meeting where you can get them anytime.
but when a year ends, you don't have anybody that totals all your expenses and all
What
your
do you think
revenues?
this is?
Well, this isn't posted.
No, because
On
I
the-
just finished putting it together.
Okay, because you had according to what's posted, you had roughly, let's see here, almost a $25,000 unspent budget. You took in 193, you expended 169. And
That
so,
was our proposed budget. Like a budget is not set in stone. Like if I need money from like for personnel and I don't need as many books that I'm going to move money over like to pay my people because like my budget committee keeps adding money to like things that I don't necessarily need money for. So of course I'm going to put it towards things that I absolutely need. Like I absolutely need people in-house. I needed to update my security system because it was no longer connecting to the security like group that we work with. I had to update like things that are really important. Like I don't know if have you done I I don't want to be condescending, but like budgets are always flexible. They're a guide.
so your budget in 2024, which is now a year and a half old, you spent almost 158,000. You're saying last year you spent 222,000.
Mhm.
Okay, that's almost $70,000 more. I understand you have a better funding source now. in
Okay,
the
so
town. Wait,
staffing,
hold on. I was still talking. Okay, please. Okay. When you talk about assessments, okay, and you say it's only $17 and change per thousand now for Richmond. Well, that's really wonderful, except that assessments went way up for a lot of people.
so you're Bristol, right?
No, I'm Richmond.
Okay.
But the
So
assessments went up, some assessments went up 60, 70%. So it wasn't like it cost the house $20,000 or $20 to fund the library. Some people paid over $100. And then there's the people in Bristol,
So
who still have to pay because they're in our school district. But guess what? Bristol has their own library. And so they're paying for Honeoye's library and they're paying for
which
their,
is not a double taxation because they technically don't have a tax for the library.
they have it through their town.
Okay.
So it's being taxed. I'm sorry, nobody recently asked for a 10% increase in their taxes. Nobody does, okay? The school district doesn't do that. We wouldn't do that to the people
Almost a
in the district.
5% increase is okay,
That's half of what you're asking. Half.
but it's still a lot more money. Okay, I'm going to invite you to come to our board meeting next month and have this conversation with my entire board and send me the list that you have that you're working off of,
No.
and we will have plenty to say.
I'm having this conversation in public right now. That's where I
We
wanted to
will
have
in
it.
public in front of my board.
Well, then let's
Which is
continue.
what should happen, because I honestly owe you nothing. There's no reason that I should have to come here and explain this to you.
You don't, and you can put up your 10% proposition in front of the voters without this board's approval. I understand
Right.
that, okay? You came here because you wanted the board's support for it. Am I correct?
I don't need it.
You don't need it, but you even stated in your letter that you would like the board's support.
I would, but I know I'm not hallucinating that I will ever get your support, Jerry. Like, you forget the part that like boggles my brain is that I can't tell you how many times you would come in and you were so friendly and we would have long conversations about your family and about things that were going on. You're going to Disney, planning all the things,
Mhm.
and then you come here and you're this totally different person.
Point of order, Madam President. We are.
So
tracking-
Janelle,
we're going-
would you
This is not.
please let us know, could you tell me now when your meeting is?
Yes. You know that date. I'm so the second Wednesday. So yeah, March 11th at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. March 11th? Okay, March 11th, 6 o'clock at the library. Okay.
Do you have a board meeting at that time?
Do we meet on the 11th? I don't think we meet the 11th. We meet the 18th.
Okay.
Yes.
Just a point of order too. I can understand expenses do go up. That I understand. And I am an advocate of the library. So there's no doubt about that. But I can understand a 4 or 5% increase a lot easier than I can at 10. That's all.
Okay, so some numbers that I did bring to you was staffing increases in the past 3 years is $23,000. 23,000, and that's because I'm trying to keep the staff that I have. I can offer them literally nothing, and they're paid barely above minimum wage. But trying to have people that are educated and kind and caring working at the library that support people no matter how they come in. Like, so I'm trying to keep those people rather than having them leave. So yes, I may give them a little bit more money than not even any other libraries. None of us are getting proper raises like we should, but still. So that's one of our huge numbers. Utilities, you guys have got to know the utilities have gone so high, and maintenance. We've done doors and lighting and like I had told you, but I'm trying to remember what a whole list of things that basically what was not on it. I know there was my front door basically fell off after I had just had it repaired. Like my urinal was forever leaking, so we had to replace that. My water drinking fountain was rusted through and leaking all over the floor. Like that's just a couple things. My water heater died. Like, so it's nonstop there, just like any other building. And so because nothing has been updated, everything is priority now. Nothing is like, oh, I can just kind of fix it. It's all priority. And unfortunately, plus because now we have to do all of our own lawn care and snow removal, that's another huge cost. That's like $5,000 right there. Because before, when we were paid by the town provided that for free. But anyways, if you have any questions, please email them. And then we will see you. I'll put you on the agenda for March 11th.
Very good, Janelle. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Yep.
Thank you, Janelle.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, next up, please welcome TAMCO Construction Managers, Bill Christensen and Brian Barlow to the podium to talk about our next steps as far as our capital improvement project goes. It's the button on the right. If it's
Right. Okay. Oh, there we go. Good. Well, good evening. We made it here. It was a little bit of a ride. It was interesting. Yeah. Yeah, your snowdrifts are impressive out here. I was going to get the snowmobiles we saw the last time we were up here out and drive them home. But just want to take a few minutes, kind of give you an update where we're at. You have some action items tonight to award some bids. You have some action items to not award some bids. We kind of want to make some sense out of that for you. We've been working with your architect on that. Brian's been busy with that, ironing out. Also want to talk big picture as far as where we're at. With the awards, the two that are being recommended to you tonight, which is your mechanical contractor and your roof contractor. We're very pleased with the roof number. The mechanical number was well in line as well. Part of our strategy with this, and we'll talk more about that, to get the mechanical contractor ordered is to get things ordered. That's the biggest thing right now. Brian was able to confirm, I'll let him talk about that, but there's some lead time on units as there is in any construction project. But if we can go ahead and get that awarded along with starting submittals, which is your next step, which we work closely with the architect with, we start moving through that process, we should be able to stay right on our timeline. So even though we will be recommending that you rebid several of your trades, we are not concerned about your overall construction timeline. We're still early enough. If this was June, I'd be a little more worried about it. But the fact that we're still in February is we're right on track. And I'll let Brian kind of update as far as some of the things we're strategy-wise and why we're doing some things. I don't want to get in a lot of details because you will have a public bid going out again here in another week or so, but at least give you some justification on where we're thinking. And, the goal of this is to make sure 30 days from now, our intent is to be back on March 11th, right?
Receive bids.
Yes, to receive bids. Yep. Then on the 18th to reward the rest of them. Yes. So any questions about that as far as where we're at in the process? You're awarding a couple of the contracts. We'd love to be here tonight to award them all. That would be much more fun to jump right into the project. But overall, you were over. So we'll talk about the strategy, but basically to go in, pull some things out, not to say you're not doing them, but make some more alternates, reduce some scope, and get this thing in line so you have basically the best possible project you can have. And then if anything, I'd love to be way under so we can talk about some more of those alternates at the end. We'll come back to it, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. But that's kind of where you're at. Schedule-wise, we're not concerned at all right now. It's early enough, but it's never too early to award mechanical if you're in line, to be honest with you. That's what we've run into the most over the last 2 or 3 years is the lead time on units. I'll give you an example. We're working with a district right now where there's equipment called Desert Air, which goes in pools. And that is a 52-week lead time. So we're awarding bids next week for basically this time in like 27 to install. So you don't have anything crazy like that, but you do have upwards of 14, 15, 18 weeks for some units. So it's never too early. So I'll let Brian talk about the kind of strategy, where we're looking to make some changes. But the overall outcome is to deliver obviously the best possible project and budget with that. So
Yeah, sure.
So the unfortunate thing is we do have to get rid of some of the alternates that existed. We were over just with the base bid, so you have to now pare those items back. So we're repackaging a few, making them look different, pulling a little bit of scope out. But the big thing is actually taking out the crawl space work with the abatement. That's a big number there. I'm going to make some phone calls tomorrow once I can do so, and see if they'll share anything with me numbers wise about what the abatement guys were seeing as far as costs on that. But that ties to a lot of the work with the bathrooms and all that. So the big idea is to take the bathroom work and park that on the shelf for the moment. And then, like Bill said, hopefully when we come back and we rebid it, hopefully we have enough contingency left over that then we can look at it. And there'd be ways, even if we didn't have the whole pot left, to look at those bathrooms and try to come up with something that everybody is good with as far as scope in there, whether it's replacing fixtures or, things like that. There'll be options. So really the idea is to get us under budget and then to basically buy contingency to get us through construction. And then once that balance is known, we get through, a lot of the demo work, get the big pieces done, that balance becomes more clear. And then you take a look at that and try to back into any of those alternates that were still there. Any of those things, trying to get them to fit within those numbers.
One of the other strategies that we're talking about is we had a general contractor bid that went out that included your playground.
Yeah.
As well.
Confusion.
Yeah, which created some confusion. And also anytime you ask a trade, a general contractor does not typically dig really anything. I mean, maybe footers for a building, but they're not going to dig holes for playgrounds and things like that. So we had it in there originally because didn't look like it was a huge scope. So it made sense to go under the general contractor. Well, that's grown quite a bit as far as the number of holes that'll be dug for the playground, some of the site work that's around it. So one of the things we are doing is pulling that site package out and having that a site contractor bid, which should reduce the overhead and obviously the markup for a GC. Clarifies the GC bid, which hopefully will scale that down. We do think that the GC bid being as high as it was, there was a lot of unknowns. And when you're in the bidding world, you have to stand by your number. Remember, they're putting bonds up for these numbers and things like that. So they tend to say, well, I'm not 100% sure of this. It's not fully clarified to the way they'd like it. So they put a little bit more money into it. So we think that's certainly part of it. The abatement, the asbestos abatement, that's a concern. It was clear what they were doing, but the end result was not exactly what anybody would want. It was basically just addressing enough abatement to do some work in the bathroom, not doing really full abatement. That sometimes can cost as much as doing the full abatement when you have to try to take a scalpel and cut certain pieces out, but leave all the rest of it untouched and things like that. So we didn't really care for that. If the numbers came in line, then certainly you could have done it, it would have been fine. But I think it's at that point where we've got to get real clear with this information that's going out. And basically get the best possible numbers out of that. But I think breaking the site up and the GC up is a good move. That'll scale back some of the electrical work as well and dial in some of the electrical bids a little bit. The other thing that happened, and it happens in every project, and this project was really ripe for that, is that as you start to go through the last pieces after we estimate, and you start to get into the code compliance issues, as you start to touch certain parts of the building, you have to bring it up to code. And so just by going an extra 20 feet down a hallway, now suddenly all those emergency exit lights have to be done. And suddenly all of this has to be done. So what was originally thought in our world to be a $30,000, $40,000 original drawing that we estimated now creeps up to 150, 180. And that's really hard to keep in line, especially you're working a lot of different areas of the building. And so that poses a problem. So put it to bid the way it was. It's now been dialed back. The intent is by the middle to late of next week that'll be ready to go back out. Well, as we mentioned, the time, call it back on the 11th, be back here to award the rest of it. And then on that night, we'll be very clear as far as like, these are the items we're recommending you take. These are the items that maybe would fit, but I wouldn't take them right now, or maybe take some of those alternates, leave yourself some room. And then the worst thing that can happen, and which is actually the best thing that could happen, is you have some money left over as we get towards the end of the summer. And we say, all right, now let's look at those alternates. Potentially have to rebid certain parts, potentially have to rebid those alternates by themselves. But now be real strategic with that, rather than just trying to shoot for the moon and hope. Hope is never a strategy in my world. Let's make sure that we have have things in line comfortably. You definitely don't want any overruns, things like that. So there's been a lot of time spent in the last few days on these drawings even more, dialing in the engineers a little bit, keeping the project on the railroad tracks, put it that way, so. And also that, but we will get started upon your approval, though. We will get started on the mechanical. That is always, for me, is always the most concerning. There is no danger like with the playground, things like that, or we're moving that forward. That'll go out to bid, and that being a separate contract will ensure that we'll be in good shape there. You know, gyms, things like that. We're not talking big items. Really, the targeted area were those bathrooms. We do think there's quite a bit of money in those bathrooms right now as far as the way they're drawn. Not to say you're not going to get bathrooms at some point, but let's see where we're at and then say, all right, what's the best way to go about that? Strategically go about that.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Say we do have money left in at the end
Yep.
of the summer and we have to rebid. How long is that process gonna take then?
Quick.
It's very fast because you're already approved. There's nothing to do.
You're
So-
approved, designed.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep, and so you had approval a few months back. So even on your aid side, once these bids come in, I can analyze where you're at as far as cash flow with Derek. You can borrow up to that, you can borrow up to your full referendum, but you won't over borrow though to finish this phase, and then you'll have this pot of money sitting there. That's the intent. That is one thing we hope for.
Yeah.
But the main thing right now is to be comfortably in line so you can move forward right now.
You just
Bidding climate is
Yeah.
weird right now. It
Very
really
weird.
is weird. It,
just for an example for you in that scenario, say we have 5 alternates in this rebid and there's one that at the end we really want to do, we have the money for it. If we know that that's something right off the bat, that if we have money, we're definitely going to do this, then I talk to that contractor early on and say,
Yeah, we
hey,
hold
this is the situation. How long can you hold that number for? And if they say, well, because of the volatility of these certain things, a month, then I say, well, can you give me 2, 3, that kind of thing. But if it's something that's very fixed and not variable, I've had them hold them for several months before. And then in that case, you just award that alternate via change order.
as long as it doesn't change who would have won
Right.
on bid day.
Yep.
So when you award on bid day, it's your base bid that's low plus any alternates you take. That scenario, Barney, works perfectly unless you had, let's say, contractor A wins in this scenario with one alternate taken. Contractor B would win if we took these 2 alternates. We need to be careful with that. That's where we'd say to you, look, don't do that. Don't do that to the contractor. Don't do that to anybody. Just rebid that portion of it. That does happen. The types of alternates you have, I don't know that will happen, just because of the way they're written. But overall, where you are project-wise right now, you're in good shape. I mean, we have a lot of it. So yeah, go ahead, Jerry.
Weren't the bathrooms one of the main things that we had the most complaints with from the students? And that's a really important part of our project. So I just want to make sure that somehow you guys find a way to fix those bathrooms.
Yeah,
We want to too.
Yeah, I think what it's going to come down to, Jerry, is the complaints are aesthetically working, all of those things. I think the way that they're being proposed to be fixed is the problem more so than the fixing of them, if that makes sense. I think the cost, in the perfect world, we'd all agree that you go in, you abate the entire space under that, in that crawl space, all the way down to the end of that hallway, you abate everything, get all that asbestos out of there, come back and build new bathrooms. That's not really the way it's being proposed. You're doing almost like a little crawl space within a crawl space, which is going to, down the road, if you want to do other upgrades down that hallway, going to pose a problem. So that's part of it. That's expensive when you're doing that. Then you're going in and you're baiting a bathroom and you're doing it all from up top. So without getting long-winded with it,
We don't want to do it halfway.
you don't want to do it halfway. So exactly. So I think the goal would be, where are we at financially when we go to award, and then say, all right, let's look at this differently. What can we do that's above ground? What can we do aesthetically, address the fixtures that are in there that are very dated, address any initial plumbing issues. I mean, there might still be some abatement, but what can we do with the tile? What we can do with the lighting? What can you do, not just to modernize, but make it more, what I'd say, functional? And I think that's probably your biggest complaints, is some of the functionality of those bathrooms.
basically what can we do from above? And is there any troubleshooting, cleaning, jetting that we can do from above without having to get down into the crawl space?
Making them more user-friendly.
Yeah, because I think it's the end user experience that becomes more important than what happens under that slab. You know, if that makes sense. You know, it's kind of like your septic tank at the house. If it works, everyone's happy. When it doesn't, no one's happy. So it's the same logic. You can have the best tile, but if the plumbing doesn't work, it doesn't work. So that's kind of the goal with it. Right now, the reason that that's selected, even though it was one of the highest priorities, is that's the lowest lying fruit the way it's set up. If you were to take out the other option, like you start taking gyms out, you start taking some of those spaces out. And that's where the questions come in. And, you know, do you really do that? Are you getting your bang for your buck there? There's some economy of scale doing 2 gyms. There's some different things that you could just be paying more later, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's a pretty isolated project by itself, those bathrooms, which now involves the entire hallway when you get into there. And that's you know, just the electrical lighting on emergency lighting is a lot. Like, how many were there? A lot.
In the
like
hundreds.
in the hundreds that have to be rewired back to circuits because of where I think we planned on maybe 20, and now because of the space growth, now every one of them, you know, I'm ready to go get battery packs at Home Depot. But that's not what the state, you know, so now you're running all those back to boxes, and you know, we got a couple electricians here. I mean, it's labor intensive more than it's not a material issue to our knowledge. It's really a labor time, like a lot of time and labor at prevailing wage. And that's just drives your cost up. So that number was really
Shocking a little bit.
Yeah, very shocking. But they were all consistent, which means that they're more likely more right than our estimate is as that scope got bigger and bigger. So they're all within, I think, $100,000. So any other questions? So just to be clear, what you're doing tonight is you're kind of just reject it. That's your official rejecting of bids, allows us to go back out. That's the public process. You're accepting more than just the 2. You also have in there, I believe I read in the letter, you have some controls.
And the fuel tank.
And the fuel tanks. Yeah, the fuel tanks are also a lead time item, so that's kind of critical to get those moving too. Last shop drawings, a lot of things as you can imagine go in place with fuel tanks. So that releases them. That lets Brian get to work with Joe on that piece. The submittals start to come in. The rest of the bids will get legal notices. If Derek doesn't have them already, I'll make sure they get, okay, so, all right, well, you'll get them. I'll get on the phone tomorrow. So those can get in the paper, and then we'll have a bid timeline. We'll bring those bids. We'll be back on the 11th. We'll open those bids, looking for good news on that, and then we'll get right back here a week later. Brian will de-scope with them, make sure they're covered, and then we'll get right to contract with them. That's the plan, and then we're still on track to start when we said we'd start, which right towards the end of the year. So, all right.
Can I say before we do our vote, first of all, I just want to say thank you for your time tonight. You've been transparent from the beginning about there possibly being some uncertainty as we got the project going. I do appreciate we have a plan. We're happy with the bids that we're hoping to get approved tonight. It's possible that repackaging some of what was left over might be a good thing, but we are planning to move forward, as Bill and Brian said, with the bathrooms just on the back end of the project. So I don't want to think we're losing sight of that.
I haven't given up that hope.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
We're not giving up. We're trying. We'll try.
I look at that student experience and adults, but student experience. So.
Not to mention you got to fill out a round trip.
Yeah, I said to him the other day, can we not keep rebidding every 2 weeks? This is getting, but yeah. And then summertime, we'll jump into that as we get into construction. Brian will be here the majority of the time. I will be here as well. We also have some other people that are going to come on site as we get to certain parts that's more their skill set. But you'll have someone here every day, kind of to herd the cats, as we like to call it, and keep things moving. As we get closer, we'll work primarily with Derek and Allie with this, but there'll be on-site job meetings, obviously. And then we'll continue our owner architect CM meetings. Those are more high level, but then I know Tori's involved with those as well. So we'll continue those meetings, but you know, our anticipation as needed, but typically a lot of our districts were here once, especially in the summertime, give you more visuals for you to see than standing here just talking at you. It's more things to show you. I haven't shown you sample reporting or anything like that yet. It's easier to do it when you get into it, but basically there's a page for finances, lots of video or lots of pictures for you to look at, and then where we're at with the schedule, the milestone versus the reality versus where we're moving from. So that's all just kind of a board level report that goes to Natalie and Derek to share, and then we answer questions for you. So kind of giving you a highlight of what's coming. That's the next phase of it. So
All set? Anybody have any more questions? All right, then first we'll take the 2 bids. So I would be looking for a motion to accept the mechanical contract base bid and the roofing contract base bid. Can I get a motion, please? Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Then I'm looking for a motion to accept Day Automation for the controls and the Pump Doctor Incorporated for the fuel tank replacement. Can I get a motion on that?
I'll move.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. And then lastly, I'm looking for a motion to reject and rebid the general construction contract, the site contract, electrical contract, and plumbing contract. Could I get a motion, please?
I'll move.
And a second? Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried.
then we handle all the notification from there. So that. All right. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a safe drive back.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
All right, and now please welcome members of our leadership team. We have Erica Esquino, Mikey DeVanzo, Matt Angel, and Nate Schneckenberger.
So good evening. We're excited to be here tonight to talk a little bit about our mid-year data. I'm going to talk a little bit about the K-8 literacy data. I feel like I've seen you guys a lot around this. So if you remember, we actually started this literacy work about this time last year, and we started talking about how New York State put out the law that every district had to align their early literacy instruction with the science of reading. And we started by looking at how important it was that we were systematically and explicitly teaching the foundational skills in our K-3 building. And so that's where we started. And then we moved to a switch in our way that we are screening our kids. And so we're screening with dibbles. If you remember, we did a whole training about all the different subtests and how those all come together. So you're going to see that a little bit tonight in action. The data is going to look different than what you're used to seeing. Okay, it's going to look a little bit different. What I did was I went through and I'm going to give you a focus, which assessments we really were focusing on to target certain skills. And then I'm going to show you what the growth looks like in those areas. Okay. So I banded them by kind of common focus areas. So in our K1, we're really looking at those really basic early literacy skills. We want our kids to know their letter names. We want them to have the phonemic awareness, which would be that letter sound correspondence. Remember that the night we practiced and we were segmenting the sounds, that piece. And then we want to start some basic decoding. So we're really looking and focusing in on 3 different subtests, even though we're giving more, but 3 basic subtests in that K1. We're looking at the letter naming, the phoneme segmentation, and the nonsense words. And the board would remember that when we talked a little bit about that when we talked about assessment. So this is some of the highlights from our K1. If you notice, we've got some nice percentile increases in some of those assessments. So our letter naming in kindergarten, we're up at 18%, and our phoneme segmentation is right there too. And then in first grade, you can see another huge jump in that phoneme segmentation. And the composite, that's their overall score. When they take the complicated formula and you plug it in the computer and it makes the overall composite score for each kid. A 16.29% growth in that composite score, that's really good. That's really, really nice growth in first grade. So in second and third grade, we're shifting a little bit more. We're continue to focus on that phonics instruction, and this is where we're starting to build the automaticity with that oral reading and listening out and reading out loud. So again, the subtests we're looking at are those nonsense words, right? Do they have the phonics skills and can they apply them to text? Reading whole words and that oral reading. Remember that was that 1 minute test where you read and we kept track of how many words you were reading? Those are what the numbers look like in here. So that nonsense words in second grade, that would be kind of their decoding at that 11.43%. Third grade, a really big jump. And if you remember, we kind of shifted this up into third grade because we were looking at, we haven't had that systematic and explicit phonics, so we were shifting it upwards a little bit. Our third graders needed it, and we're seeing that play out right here. And then we had a nice third grade composite growth there of the 6.46. Here's our fourth and fifth grade band. So we're moving a little bit away now from the foundational skills. So not as much time spent on that decoding side. Remember when we talked about that reading rope? We're not going to be as further on that lower side of the rope. We're going to kind of move up a little bit more and focus on the top as we're twisting those pieces together to get to that reading comprehension. So we're focusing on their reading rate, which comes in their oral reading, how many words they read per minute, how accurate they are with the words that they read per minute, and then that maze subtest, which was the reading comprehension, where they're circling the words that go in. And their growth looked really great. So if you're looking at their oral reading, both 17%, 10%-ish in fourth and fifth grade, and then their comprehension, those are some really big growth numbers that we're seeing. And then here's some just sixth through eighth grade achievements. Their reading instruction shifts and looks a little bit different when they go into middle school, right? They're reading grade level text, they're practicing in their content areas. It becomes really more incorporated into every part of their school day. So just a couple highlights there, 14% increase in the sixth grade composite overall score, 13.63% in their oral reading fluency. And then eighth grade had a 6.82% in their maze, which would be their reading comprehension. So overall, we're seeing some really nice growth. We are in our third cycle of the WIN groups. Remember, we have been taking this data every 6-ish or so weeks. We're doing some progress monitoring. We're regrouping kids based on some data, teacher input, teacher observations, and regrouping kids, giving them targeted skills based on what they need. And right now, we're in a really good spot. We're seeing some really, really nice growth. Does anybody have any questions on literacy?
I just have a quick question. With this data dive, are we going to be able to see, like, with all the grades, like below level, at level, above level, like we were before? Because I think that would be helpful for us to see, like, where everybody is.
So it is, I can give you a breakdown of that. It's a lot of data to look like because there's so many subtests now, if that makes sense. And so it is pouring, the way I have it flowing is into different spreadsheets where we're really looking at a kid by kid leveling, almost, I don't want to call it leveling, kid by kid analysis of it, because we're really trying to target the individual student needs in that WIN cycle, and then looking at those data trends to look at what our universal instruction looks like. So I do have it. It's just a lot more to pour through than what it has looked like in the past.
Yeah, it's great to see all their growths and everything, but it would be great to see, like, the bigger picture of where they were at and where everybody is at in that grade level, like we were before.
So because we're not using iReady,
Right.
it's not going to push, it doesn't push out that same type of report.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was just curious if that was something that you would be able to provide us with. Just
I
to
can
see
provide you
how
like
it's
a condensed, it's not going to look pretty like that, but I can provide you a little bit more of a condensed version of what that would look like. It's not color coded by bars and things like that. Is that?
Erica?
Yeah.
Are these numbers where you would expect what you were expecting, or are they higher or lower than what everybody had in mind for this?
There are certain places that I saw a huge jump in growth where I wasn't necessarily expecting to see it. And there were other areas that were smaller increments that I thought we might see more. But what the data really is telling me, especially like in this band, was that these kids really needed that phonics work, that second and third grade group. And you can tell by those growth scores. That was the right move to really push and do some really focused work in that area. And then remember, once we've started now this, right, we're going to have a full year under our belt with those kindergartners. As those kindergartners are cycling up, we're not going to have to put as much emphasis in like second and third grade because they're going to have those skills as they're cycling through. Does that make sense? So I think it'll be interesting to see what does it look at the end, and like, will these guys shift a little bit more over toward seeing bigger growth in their oral reading because they've shown so much growth here? That would be kind of the next piece of their puzzle. We're seeing some really nice growth where we need it to be right now. In talking with our literacy consultant, to see double-digit growth is really good. Really good. She's like, anything that's 10% or more is exceptional growth. So we're on the right track. And remember, when we first started talking about this is like a 5-year thing. We've got time. So we're seeing this much growth now, which is great. It might not be these huge jumps again when we look at this at the end of the year. Yes, sir.
So if a student is falling behind or isn't showing the growth that a lot of their fellow students are,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, but could you just outline the steps of help that we provide those students? Because these numbers look great, but I'm sure there's some students that aren't advancing quite as well.
Mhm. So we did kind of overall like proficiency, and we're doing them by all the different subtests by each kid. We're looking at cohort proficiency. But then what we know what all of those kids are getting for their tier 1, their universal instruction, but we also know what they're getting in those targeted win groups. So that's kind of the first step. We see a kid and they're flagging. Remember, a universal screener is just to flag. It's that temperature check to see this kid's doing okay or they're not doing okay. And if they're not doing okay, we got to figure out what's going on. And so then when we get some more data and we're figuring out what's going on, that's when we're giving them that targeted instruction in that area of need in order to help bolster their growth. If we're not necessarily seeing the growth we should be seeing out of them, then that's when those kids would move into kind of that next step of the process, and they might be referred, to the instructional support team, where they would even get more targeted, individual goals set based on their areas of need. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Anything else for me?
Hi, everyone. We're going to just kind of shift gears to math right now. So keep in mind when we're looking at our data, we are looking at iReady data still. We did follow a similar format to what Erica had just showed for the Dibbles report as well. But we're using iReady, obviously, until we have determined, or our math committee has determined, what new math screener we should use moving forward. So here you'll see when we're looking at the iReady, there's really 4 domains that it explores, and that's across the board at each grade level. So we're looking at numbers and operations, we're looking at algebraic thinking, geometry, measurement, and data. So still looking at those grade bands, right? So at kindergarten, you'll see for numbers and operations, we did have a 28% increase. And for measurement and data, we had a 24% increase. Looking at first grade for algebraic thinking, a 36% increase, with geometry being a 28% increase. So you'll see there's a lot of growth from the fall to now. Looking at second and third grade, Numbers and operations, we did have a 14% increase. Measurement and data, a 17% increase. Some of the things that we talked about with the second grade team was that there are certain skills that are being tested on the iReady portion right now that we have not gotten to in our curriculum yet. So it's 2 units away, so keep that in mind. It's just one of the factors to think about as well, like how does our curriculum align to the screener that we're using? Looking at third grade, we had for algebraic thinking a 32% increase, and for measurement and data, 29%. And then for fourth grade, numbers and operations, 17% increase. Algebraic thinking, 29% increase. For fifth grade, algebraic thinking, we had a 15% increase, and for numbers and operations, a 30% increase. All right, any questions? Okay. Oh, so did you all hear that we were looking at screeners previously? So our math committee is exploring math screeners. We've talked about that kind of before. I know last year when we had conversations around it, we did talk about that piece. Our committee has been meeting. We met with our BOCES representative last week and just really looked at what are our different options in terms of screeners and what makes the most sense for elementary and why. So we are, in terms of our next steps, would be to have our math committee meet with the vendor and really dig in to see what that looks like and have a presentation through them.
Good evening. I think another thing that I want to say about the screeners that was appealed to us is what we're currently looking at. So both in what's happening currently with the DIBEL screening, as well as what we're looking at potentially for math. A big appeal to me is that I think to all of us is that they're reducing the amount of class time that's being spent in assessment. So right now, when you're doing an iReady assessment that happens 3 times a year, you're looking at it's really taking 2.5, maybe 3 class periods to really complete that entire assessment, and then you're doing that 3 times a year. So right now, like with this oral reading fluency that Eric and her team have going, that's just a couple minute pop with each student individually, and then and at our level, they're doing a reading comprehension, which is still only about half a class period. And then that thing's done. That's like a 20-minute piece. So in terms of just getting back a significant amount of class time, like 6 extra class periods of learning, I think it's very appealing. So if we can still get that data and get back 6 classes of actual teaching, I think it's definitely worth exploring. So I guess just that point. Okay, we shifted gears a little bit. I think we went to talk a little bit about the testing week that we did for our high school students in January. And during that time, our teachers were testing, they were doing their midterm assessments, as well as any retakes for regents. And then that's also, we shifted gears a couple of years ago to administer our English regents to all of our juniors. And I do want to share a little bit about that with the board tonight. So our English regents from this past January, which is our juniors, take that. Our students this year achieved a passing rate that was the highest in at least the last 20 years and quite possibly ever. I just haven't had the time to go through all of it, but I did go back 20 years. We had a 98% passing rate on the English regents this past January, and 66% of that group scored an 85% or higher on that test. So they absolutely crushed it. I went back, I think there were 6 times in the last 20 years that Honeyway had above a 90% on the English regents, and no 98%. So I'm curious to see when we do get the data. It's usually probably not until next fall in terms of how we stack up in the region. But I would certainly bet that we're at the top, if not the top. So we'll wait and see what the rest of Wayne Finger Lakes does. But right now, our kids did a great job. They did a great job. And then for that 2% that we have that we still need to work with, it does give us the opportunity now to, as they were saying, to really target that instruction and the support. I think they asked Jerry, so it'll be very targeted for that student to take a look specifically at where they came up short on this test. And Mr. Angel has done a great job of getting data where we have that item analysis, which I think I talked about the board, so they can see exactly what they got right, what they got wrong, the amount of credit they got on certain responses, and we actually give them copies of the actual Regents test or tests if they've taken it more than once. So we equip our teachers with all that very specific information to really target and get those kids prepared. So come June, I think that will certainly be 100%. Okay, and now we shift back to math. So I'll turn it over to a former math teacher to tackle the math section for our 6-8.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, Nate. And you guys, you've been looking at a lot of things, but Megan, this might be what you were talking about, right? And this is because the screeners that we use for math, the iReady, that hasn't changed, right? So those screeners are given beginning of year, middle of year, end of year, so 3 different times. And what the board would want to look at, the bottom colored, I'll step away from the mic just for a second. This is our fall screener, and then winter stacks on top of it. So our newest data, what you would want to be looking for as a board visually is you want the red bars to shrink, you want the yellow bars to shrink, and you want the green bars to grow. Okay, so our red bars are students, and there's some cross hatching there. So 2 or more grade levels or 3 or more grade levels is the most severe, right? So we shrank that as you look up, and even as the number of students placed in there. So if I work from the bottom bullet up, a decrease from 21% down to 13% of students who are 2 or more grade levels below. And in actual students, that's a drop of 6 students who have gained an entire grade level or more in 4 months of instruction. That's growth, right? And when you look at that yellow bar shrinking, again, moving from the bottom up, we went from 40% students who were 1 grade level below to 24 students who are a grade level below. Again, picking up 15% of students, that's a drop from 36 down to 22. That's actual real numbers in students. And then if you look at the green bars combined for the fall, 5 plus 35 is 40%. In the winter, 20 plus 43, that's where we get the 63%. So we now have an increase of almost 1 out of 4 students are now on or above grade level. That's real growth. So we're pretty pleased with what our middle of the year screener was telling us for math. And if we drill that data down just a little bit further, and this is the last slide for the board to look at, it's a little hard to read to fit everything on there, but those are the same domains that Mikey DeVanzo talked about: number and operations, algebraic thinking, measurement and data and geometry. So within that screener, each of the questions that are asked are then subcategorized into one of those 4 domains. So we can track and really narrow down, like for targeted academic intervention support, which, if any of the 4 domains, does a student need. So again, just visually looking at the lower bars to the upper bars, you can see that the green in all 4 domains has increased substantially. And a couple of those that I wanted to highlight at the bottom are numbers and operations, 30% growth in 4 months' time, and our algebraic thinking, 24% growth. And why that's important, these 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are preparing for high school courses, and math is the language that scientists and engineers speak in. And also our students in 11th and 12th grade who are going into career and technical education, we want to see growth in those subdomains, specifically the measurement and data, the geometry, the algebraic and abstract thinking. So we are incredibly pleased with how these numbers bear out, and I think it speaks to the work that our teachers are doing in the classroom. I said a lot in 2 slides. Is there questions? Anything I said cause concern? All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Schneck for the final thoughts.
I did want to mention to the board, so back when I was talking about our testing, and it's certainly worth mentioning. So on top of I think I got carried away with the English, but I was excited for them. But it's also a time for us to be able to give the students who may came short on Regents tests another opportunity. And with all of those students that we had who needed to pass a Regents test in order to be on track to graduate, We provided support with those students, very targeted, right from the very beginning of the year. So just like I said, with their past tests, their item analysis, we paired them up with teachers, very small groups, and worked, very specifically and strategically to have those kids be prepared. And ultimately, every single one of them passed their Regents exam this past January. Was receiving the support. So it's a great show. 2 of them were seniors who are now on track. Those were the last tests they needed to get off their plate to be on track to graduate. And otherwise, we're in good shape. So great show. The AIS was very effective. Our teachers did a great job with it. And I think it was, it's really our job to equip them with that so they can be effective. And they were. So that was excellent. I think I'll make one other point and then I'll stop talking. But the last thing that I wanted to say in regard to the math, and I don't know if it's been shared with the board, I don't recall, but I think it was a very high level compliment that we received. So following our math results from last year, so if the board remembers, we had our 6th grade was #1 in the region, our 8th grade was #1 in the region, and I didn't speak about it because I was really talking about the top 5, but our 7th grade was still #7 in the region out of 25 schools. So across the board, we had a great show. We had a neighboring district looking at the same data that we were, recognize what we had done here at Honeyway, and they actually contacted Mrs. Squino to see if they could come out and observe our teachers. So they recognized, hey, what you guys have going on in Honeyway is great. They saw the numbers too, and they asked if their teachers could come out and shadow ours. So I don't know if there's a higher level compliment that we could get, at least in the math regard. So I was very pleased to have them reach out to us. So thank you.
All right. First, thank you to this team, their ability to collaborate, the work that you've done this year. The data you showed tonight is outstanding. I think I got the chills about 6 times. This is amazing. Thank you. The shifts that you've made are working. The teachers who are in the audience, you're on the front line. Thank you. Danielle, Kim, we appreciate you, and we appreciate all that you're doing this year. Thank you. Okay. Very quickly, Marley couldn't be here tonight. She's being honored at senior night, but she asked me to share her slides. So I'm going to go very quickly through those. She talked about the French Club. They're holding their parent meeting for their trip soon to go over all of the details for the trip, which is just over a month away. Youth to Youth is selling Valentine's Day carnations as their fundraiser for this month. Sewing intramurals, how cool is that? Students are able to stay after school to learn how to sew, and right now they're making bags. Masterminds, currently our team is one of the top teams in our area, so definitely worth mentioning. So those are just a few of many of our club highlights. A sports update, she talks about basketball celebrating their senior night tonight. Their team continued to improve at each game. The girls' basketball team celebrated their senior night last week, which we talked about, and again, cheer tonight as well. Track is doing amazing and continuing to up their performance, and you can expect them to do well in sectionals and state qualifiers. And of course, we already saw the picture of our bowling team, but they're also doing amazing things. And look at this. There were no student concerns this month. So that is pretty awesome as well. I think that's the first time. And then 2 quick shout outs. She said the varsity cheer team wants to give a shout out to Mark Pulver, who quickly got them their new pom-poms as they were losing points at competitions for the previous ones, as well as helping organize the retirement party for Coach Kathy Carly Walsh. They also wanted to say thank you to Mrs. Van Laer, who always is reaching out with new scholarship opportunities, and Mrs. Berger, who shares with them. Everyone shares those with them during class. So 2 shout outs, or 3 shout outs tonight. Okay, they talked a little bit about the upcoming senior events. Looking forward to those, the senior trip, the senior picnic, the water slide. Jim, you're going to be on cue again, looking for that fun day. Prom is coming up in May, And then the library has a really cool event going on right now. It's a blind date with a book. Blind date with a book. So that's really catchy. And she's got these really cool book packages put together. I'll try to get a picture for you for our next meeting. And then the Book Olympics, and of course, celebrating Black History Month. Okay. And so thank you again to our student board member. All right, I have just two quick updates. It's been a lot of information tonight. But first, regarding the baseball merger, there is a meeting scheduled for Thursday, February 19th at 5:30. Interested students and their parents are invited to attend. Please look for additional information from our athletic director in the next few days. The meeting will be held in Bloomfield, and the coach will be there as well. Second, because many of our seniors are attending the trip to France, senior advisors have worked with students to create a shorter, less expensive option for our seniors. So if approved tonight, seniors will be traveling to Erie, Pennsylvania early Friday, April 24th, and then returning late the following evening. Students will be visiting Splash Lagoon, followed by a hibachi dinner on day 1. And then on day 2, they will visit the zoo and then dinner at the mall. So this alternative trip will cost approximately $200 per student. So that's pretty amazing. All right. And now I will turn it over to Mr. Valise for a few business office. Oh, the class trip. Yes.
So I would be looking for a motion to approve the revised class of 2026 senior trip, please. And a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? I'm just glad they get to go somewhere. They deserve it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, probably not.
So the Finance Committee was originally supposed to meet today, but we had to reschedule because the Health Consortium met today and released the rates. Outside of our salaries, health insurance is our second largest cost, so it was important to be there. So we have that information. We will be meeting again on March 2nd, and then as a reminder, March 4th is when our budget presentations start occurring at the Board of Education level. I have been meeting with Mr. Chavez in regards to planning out our budget videos that we would like to send out to the community. So that's well underway, and it's been kind of stale on the budget forefront. We did the rollover budget, and then information hasn't been coming in. This week, it has been coming in pretty steadily. We got the state aid numbers, the projections. Erica right now is going through the EduTech budget. She's reviewing it, making sure that it's accurate, and trying to save us every dollar we can. We're still waiting on the big part of our BOCES budget. They are well aware of the issue. They currently are without a business official. So their timelines in giving us their budget for next year is lacking. They normally have 2. They currently have 0 business officials. So that obviously contributes to their current situation. So more information will be coming March 4th. I had a lot more for the capital project, but TAMCO gave up a lot of that information. But there are a lot of behind the scenes work that's happening. Yesterday, we had Erica got us an EduTech rep who could help us, and we had our clocks and PA vendor in. We were looking at placements and making sure that they're how close it was to wiring closets and that stuff, the non-fun part of the job. But that's well underway. Our clocks are ordered and they should be coming soon. We're hoping to get some wiring done over the recess periods to get it ready to go. And then over the summer, get all the clocks installed, and hope our timeline is that they will all be in September. Other than that, you guys approved those projects, so hopefully the next coming days, we'll let those contractors know that they won the bid, get that mechanical equipment ordered. A lot of the mechanical equipment relates to the gymnasiums and the air handlers that go with that. So we're getting close to finally seeing the work come to light. And then these are the parts of the projects that we were rejecting. Any questions in regards to the budget or the capital projects? Great.
I just want to add, we are going to be having a demo set up in one of the classrooms where teachers can come in and take a look at the PA system and the new clocks that are going up in the various parts of the building. So we'll have board members join us as well, maybe before a board meeting, for you to kind of get a little demo of those as well. And that is it from us. Thank you to the leadership team for presenting tonight, to our teachers tonight. You are more than welcome to stay, but please feel free to head home if you would like. It's been a long day. Yeah, the best, right. Thank you. Yes.
All right, we will move on with the consent agenda. Looking to approve the minutes from January 21st, 2026, and the executive CSE minutes. Can I get a motion to approve those? A second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carried. Moving on to personnel, we have some appointments. Looking for a motion to approve the 25-26 coach for girls varsity track and the 2 unpaid assistants, modified A in varsity softball and varsity softball again. Get a motion?
I'll move.
Oh, I'll second.
Okay.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Did you get that, Jen?
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Moving on to new business, old business. We have invoices. Capital Region BOCES invoice 195-26F and SWBR invoice 2600201, Honeyway Central School District 2024-25 COP. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move.
A second? I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Moving on to create position. Upon the recommendation from Superintendent Fluke to create the position listed below, 1 full-time Director of Transportation. This would be a 12-month position effective July 1st, 2026. Looking for a motion to approve.
I'll move.
And a second? Is there any discussion?
Go ahead.
You first.
Just to clarify, especially for anybody watching, probably, we're not really having a whole new position set up. It's basically giving Ray a new title and doing away with his old one, correct?
Yeah.
Is,
People on. Jerry, turn it off. I don't.
repeat that question again, please.
We're basically, just so anybody watching doesn't think we're hiring somebody else as a new position, we're basically changing Ray's title, right?
Well, so at this time, the position is the transportation coordinator, so we're creating a new title. The title has to then be created through civil service and posted, and Ray is certainly welcome to apply for the position. Right now, it looks like it is a, what is the name that the position qualifies for? A helps program position. So that there are some things that we can fast track for the position because of the helps program entitlement for the position. So what that means is the test is waived. There is no test right now for this particular position, and the position does not have to, what are the other things that they don't have to? There's
like certain
some other,
requirements,
there's certain
yeah,
requirements that they override that they typically wouldn't or haven't in the past. So we've been working with civil service throughout this process, and that has been kind of why it's taken a little bit longer than when we first discussed. Any other questions about that?
I have a few questions, but I have been told that my questions are only appropriate for executive session. I'm confused about some of the financial aspects and a couple of other things. So I would like to table this, please, for executive session so that we can discuss it appropriately.
Okay, then we will table that and we will move on to the annual vote. I'm looking for a motion to approve the annual vote, which will be held, it'll be the annual vote and election will be held Tuesday, May 19th, 2026, from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. in the auditorium foyer of the Honeoye Central School District. Can I get a motion to approve that, please?
I'll move.
Second,
I'll second.
any discussion?
Yes. Jen, over the last few years, has it always started at 8? I know we always go to 9, and I know it used to start much earlier, but then we moved it up to sometime, and I'm just curious, that's all.
So yes, one year we moved it. It used to be from 6 to 9, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Then we moved it from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Or no, we moved it from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then we found that there were some people who were like, oh, I thought it went to 9, or like the basketball game was ending. So we made it from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. to cover those people that came in towards the end. You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. And I would just like to bring attention to that on the school website. You can find all the information about the vote. Jen has already had all that listed ahead of time. So thanks, Jen, for doing that. Moving on to the capital improvement project. We have an invoices. I'm looking for a motion to approve the play by design invoice for SACTO 0000059057, play by design invoice design PM 211, and SWBR invoice 2408412, Honeoye Central School District 2024 Capital Improvement Project. Can I get a motion?
I'll move.
And a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Moving on to comments from the Board of Education. Does anybody have anything? I will just say that on February 5th from 2:30 to 4, the strategic design team met again to keep moving forward with the work for a rollout of that design and plan come the start of the upcoming school year. And then secondly, don't forget, we are working in the concession stand February 18th. That's the dates, times are in the recap at the bottom that I send out after the agenda set meeting. And I didn't know if anybody had seen your email. There was a superintendent evaluation workshop that NISBA's offering. It's to do with super eval, but I didn't know if anybody'd seen it. It's supposed to be for overcoming challenges, which I don't think we have, but foster meaningful conversations and strengthen relationships on your governance team. I kind of would like to attend it. It's virtual. It's not a go to it. But it's $140 to attend. So I don't know if the board sees that as useful spending of money or not. So I didn't know if you would all be okay if I went or attended.
Yeah.
Do I need a motion on that? Yeah, all right. So could I get a motion, please, for myself to attend Friday, March 6th from 8 a.m. to noon for the cost of $140, the superintendent evaluation workshop? You need a
I'll
motion?
move.
A second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that is carried. Thank you. I will definitely share all the things as I always do. And yes,
Oh, I was just idly wondering, is that 160 per member
140.
or 140 per member? Is
Yeah.
that- Okay.
Yeah, it's 140 for members and 280 for non-members, so. Yikes. All right, does anybody have any other comments? All right, then there's information for the board, and then we need to go into executive session. Jen, exactly how would I word this? All right, then we need to go into executive for the employment history of particular individuals. Can I get a motion on that, please?
I'm sorry, I just want to say one thing just on record. The current position we have is called a transportation coordinator. Nobody else in the region has a transportation coordinator. So I want to start with that. So part of why we were making the recommendation to change the title from the coordinator to director of transportation are because our current coordinator, Ray Thomas, upon being hired, didn't have the credentials that would be outlined under what a director of transportation would have. Since then, Ray has earned the credentials, so he is doing the things that would qualify him to now be a director of transportation. So I just wanted to preface that, and I wanted to make sure that was on record in case other people had questions about the change in a title of this position that we have in the district.
All right, then I'll be looking for a motion then for executive.
I make a motion that we go into executive session.
And a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're in executive.
Yep, you get to
Aye.
leave.
Opposed? We are out of executive. And now also, I wanted to just remind you of two things, and one just slipped my mind, but one is that I sent the Bulldog Beat draft out. If you can just initial it or something so that I can send that out. It has to be in by the 13th. So I need to have that. And the other thing was we have to get a picture of all of us together for the yearbook because the last picture they have of all of us, there were board members that weren't previous board members. So there's that. And then we will go back and I just have to get to the right page. Give me a second. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going back to create position. And I would need a motion to approve the one full-time director of transportation for 12 months, position effective July 1st, 2026. And a second? All right, is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that is carried. And lastly, if no one has anything else, okay. All right, then I would need a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Oh, hold on. Who motioned?
Jen.
Okay, who second? Okay, sorry. I forgot I had to write all this down. All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. What time is it?
It is 8.